Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. In case you're wondering, I'm happy to report that is indeed me in that picture. That's my pre-pandemic face. My name is Junaid Makbool. I'm an international student recruitment specialist. I work closely with Josh to help international students understand the Canadian education landscape, and I also help them with placement in colleges and universities across Canada. I have more than 8 years of experience in the international education industry. I was born and brought up in the Middle East in a beautiful country called Oman. I immigrated to Canada in 2019. I have a bachelor's in accounting and finance, and I'm also a qualified project management professional. Enough about me. Let's talk about Canada. There are two things that I want to highlight about Canadian education. Number one is the global recognition of it. Canadian educational institutions are among the best in the world. You will often find them in global rankings. So, what that means is your certificates, your diplomas, your degrees from Canadian institutions will be recognized all over the country, in North America, and all around the world. Canadian education is also more cost effective relatively when you compare it to some of the other study destinations. The other thing that I wanted to highlight was the provincial and territorial differences. Canada is a huge country. There are 10 provinces, three territories. The basic education system is the same. It's a three-tier system: elementary, secondary, and post-secondary. Within these sectors across the country, you'll find minor differences, but overall the system is pretty much the same. For this presentation, I'll be focusing on the post-secondary education sector. When you look at the post-secondary education sector, there are two kind of institutions: universities and colleges. Universities are degree granting institutions. They provide you with your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhDs. There are more than 100 universities offering more than 15,000 study programs. Program length for a bachelor's degree tend to vary from 3 to 4 years. For a master's, it's 1 to 2 years. Cooperative education and internship is a way for universities to provide you with employability skills. And another feature of the post-secondary sector is the college to university transfer. Very common for international students to start their journey in a college, spend 2 years, and then finish the qualification in a university another 2 years. So that way they get best of both worlds. When looking at colleges, colleges are very focused on employment skills, career training, and trades. Their responsibility or their focus is to prepare you for the job market. There are more than 100 colleges offering variety of programs. So you'll have your certificates, you'll have diplomas, you'll have applied bachelor's degrees, you'll have apprenticeship programs, and combined college university degrees. Program length tends to vary from few months, 3-4 months, to 4 years. And looking at the cost of education, I said earlier in the presentation that Canadian education is more cost effective relatively when compared to other study destinations. And this slide shows you how. So an undergraduate qualification in Canada, if you're doing it from a college, the range is 8 to 18,000 Canadian dollars a year. If you're doing it from a university, it's 16,000 to 35,000 Canadian dollars a year. Obviously, the price, what you pay is dependent on the institution, the province, and the major and the qualification that you're doing. The more technical the topic, the pricier it will be. Medical degrees, for example, slightly more on the pricier end. On average, you can expect to spend around 29,000 Canadian dollars per year for a bachelor's degree in Canada. When you look at the postgraduate qualification, the range is from 7,000 to 22,000 a year. On average, annually, you'll look at spending 17,000 plus. Average cost of living is from 10,000 to 14,000 Canadian dollars, and again, very dependent on which province you're in and what is your lifestyle, what kind of expenses you have. And this is just about the tuition in Canada. As an immigrant myself, I can tell you that Canada is one of the most welcoming places and one of the nicest places to live, work, and study in. And one way you can look at how welcoming Canada is just to see the level of support international students got during this pandemic. While other countries weren't focusing on international students or in some cases asking them to leave, Canadian authorities were working together with the institutions to make sure international students have support. And it is that work that now allows international students to come to Canada as long as they're studying with an institution whose COVID readiness plan has been accepted by the government. I know Josh will talk a little bit more about it when he presents. So Canada should absolutely be right at the top of your destinations to study in. Right now, looking at funding your studies, one way to do this is through scholarships. There are various funding options available. The two main types are institutional and governmental funding. Government funding is when Government of Canada or the government of your country sponsors you to study in Canada. Institutional funding is when a specific institution provides you financial aid to study with them. You'll find scholarship opportunities, financial aid options at both the undergrad and graduate level. Some examples of scholarships are third-party scholarships, research funds, and also bursaries. So these are just some examples of funding options available to you as an international student. Moving on to the next slide, let's look at the acceptance requirements. Acceptance requirements vary. Institutions look at various things, including what qualifications you have studied and where you have studied and where you're applying from. If you're doing an undergraduate program, you would need to have finished your high school. 65%, 70% is a good score in your high school, and you'll also need to have completed a English language qualification, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the slide. Institutions may ask you for additional information depending on the program you've applied for. For a postgraduate program, you'll need to have a 4 years bachelor's degree. Some institutions accept 3 years, but mostly it's 4 years bachelor's degree that you would need. You need some work experience as well, so you'll need to submit a resume. You'll also need to submit a statement of purpose. That's a statement from your side articulating why are you going for a specific program, what are your objectives, what are your goals. And then you'll also need to submit a letter of preference or letter of recommendation. I'm sorry, a letter of recommendation is a letter from a third party recommending your potential to the institution. It could be a letter. The letter could be from your academic professor, somebody who taught you at the college or university you studied in, or could also be a professional reference, somebody who you worked with. In addition to these requirements, you may also need to submit GMAT or GRE, not mandatory, but in some cases you may be required to submit GMAT, GRE. Acceptable GMAT scores are 550 plus, GRE scores 320 plus, and of course you'll also need to submit English language qualification results as well. Application process varies by province. In certain provinces, you apply directly to the institution. In certain provinces, you apply through a central system. Right, coming on to the English language requirements. Unless you are a native English speaker or you have studied from an officially English-speaking country, you will need to provide evidence of having suitable English language skills. And the way you can prove it is through an English language qualification. So there are a number of English language qualifications that are accepted in Canada. Some of the popular ones are TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, Pearson English, etc. If you're doing TOEFL, for a paper-based, 560 plus is a good score. For internet-based, 80 plus is a good score with no score under 21. For IELTS, 6.5 overall with no band under 6 is the threshold. If you're doing Duolingo, 115, 120 plus is usually a good score. Again, the exact score varies from institution to institution. If you don't meet the English language requirements, then some institutions may give you a conditional admission offer where you have to do certain English language programs with them before you go into your main program. Right, so moving on to my last slide, way to start. So just want to bring everything back together. The first thing that you need to do is start your search early. you need to give yourself plenty of time, 8 to 10 months before the start of your preferred semester. You need to know your semesters, you need to know your dates, you need to know when you should apply, the requirements. How are you applying? Are you applying yourself? Will you be using consultant, an agent? In Canada, most institutions have at least 3 semesters in a year. So you have your winter semester from January to April. You have your spring summer semester from May to July, August, and then you have your fall semester from September to December. Some institutions may offer additional semesters during the year as well. So you need to know all of these dates. And then once you have everything in place, you need to prepare and submit your application to the institution. Upon submission, you will be told exactly how long will it take for them to process the application. Usually it takes anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks. Once you have submitted your application and it has been accepted, you'll get a letter of acceptance, and that's when you can apply for a study permit, and then you can travel to Canada. Just a little bit on the COVID situation. Admissions are open. They have been open throughout the pandemic. There are more than 700 institutions right now that are ready to host international students, and I'm sure there'll be more in the upcoming months. So institutions whose COVID readiness plans have been accepted by the government, they are ready to host international students. There is a full list on the Government of Canada's website. Josh will talk more about it. Admission for January is pretty much closed. May is open, May 2021, filling up really fast. September 2021 is also open, filling up. So if you're serious about studying in Canada, would recommend that you make your move. I do provide free consultation. So very happy to have a conversation to understand your profile. You can book a call with me. I know Josh will share a link shortly. I'll be very happy to understand your profile, and then we can work together to submit your application and get you admission in Canada. And finally, once you do start studying in Canada, most of the classes right now would be delivered online, but some classes that require face-to-face learning will have the face-to-face element. So it'll be hybrid teaching model. That's my 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Josh, over to you.